What's up, guys? It's Rick again, and today we're going to go through an extensive video. By this time, you have already learned to lock up your deals, and my job here is to prep you and get you ready for your cash buyers. Now, I've done a lot of short videos on it, but I decided let's go ahead and really give you the step-by-step process once you got your contract locked up and how to take it home with your cash buyers. So the first thing I like to do is just start off with a checklist before you get to your cash buyer. And it is important that you take this checklist down because it is going to set you up for success on your wholesale deals. So step number one is going to be, once you have your contract executed, meaning you signed and your seller signed, you need to immediately send that contract over to your title company. So many of you, sometimes you wait to do it and it is not a good decision. The reason is you want that contract over to your title company so they can pull title. It takes various amounts of times to pull the title depending on what part of the country you are in. And what you want to do is run it through so they can come back to you and tell you if there's any issues with the property. Issues going to be additional monies that are owed. Maybe there's documents, maybe there's a questionable quitclaim deed. So the sooner you get this, the less surprises you're going to do. Now, I've heard some of you say, I don't want the title company to run it till I find a cash buyer. That is not a good suggestion, because once you find a cash buyer and then you find out you have a problem and say it takes 30 days to fix it, your cash buyer is not going to wait around. So make sure once you have your contract to send it straight over to your title company. The second part of that is your earnest money deposit. Whatever it is, $100, $500, $1,000, whatever you agreed upon, make sure you execute that with your title company. So many wholesalers are really bad about this. If you put an agreement together and you agreed upon an earnest money deposit, it is your job and your responsibility to make sure it's funded. Without funding it, you could actually be in violation of the contract, and that could actually kill your deal. So, number one, make sure you get your contracts immediately over to the title company. And then step two, make sure you fund your earnest money deposit by whenever the contract says. It is very important that you execute on the earnest money deposit. The next part of your checklist is you have the contract done, you gave it to your title company, you got EMD, is go take interior and exterior pictures. Now, keep in mind, you're only selling the contract, but you have to get a frame of reference of the condition of the property. So when you are qualifying your sellers, if they request some sort of pictures, you can send it to them privately. This is not for you sending it all over Facebook, all over the internet. That is not the right way to do wholesaling. But go ahead and get pictures for references so you can at least give them an idea of the condition of the property. So when they buy the contract, they've got an idea what kind of asset they're buying. And step three is, once you have the seller under contract, you have to make sure you follow up at least twice a week. If you don't do this, you're going to find out the hard way that sellers don't stick around. In fact, if you don't talk to them for a few days, they assume maybe you're not serious and they move on. So I'm going to give you a little tip that works out excellent for all motivated sellers. Once you have them under contract, you're going to give the title and the EMD to your title company. Is have your title company reach out to them within the first couple of hours of entering into a contract with them. Why? Number one, it's going to make them feel better. They've got a license, an insured and a reputable third party overseeing the transaction. Number two, it's going to solidify your position in the contract. They're like, oh my gosh, I heard from a title company, Rick's actually doing what he's saying, and it puts them at ease. Now, if the title company doesn't reach out to them and you don't talk to them for days, sometimes long weekends go on and they talk to their neighbors who's a realtor, they talk to their neighbor that's a pseudo lawyer, and this is where you get the buyer's remorse. If you make sure you follow up with them at least twice a week until the closing, and make sure your title company engages them immediately upon receiving the title information, make sure you give them your seller's name, contact phone number, and email address. This makes all the difference in the world. You are at serious risk in the first 48 hours of entering a contract. So you touching them multiple times and having your title company touch them multiple times will ensure that your contract survives all the way to the end in your wholesaling deals. So the next step we want to move on, approaching our cash buyer, is we want to talk about our title company. Yes, your title company. And the reason for this is you have to have everything set up so you don't have any missteps in this process. So I'm going to tell you rule number one. This is non-negotiable. I've been doing this 21 years. If you break this rule, I almost guarantee your deal is going to fall apart. Whichever title company you vetted and you've picked out, which we'll go over, that's the title company you're using. You have to. Make sure you use your title company in your market. So if you're doing it virtually, it's got to be within that state. The closer they are to the county, the better. If a cash buyer or a seller insists on using their title company, don't fall for it. I know it's tempting to do it to get them to sign the deal, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to take you into what we call a realtor title company, and they're probably not going to do assignments. They're going to screw the deal up, and you're going to regret it in the long run. Every time I've folded on this, I've had a problem in wholesaling. It is so important you stick with your title company. They understand you. They understand your wholesaling business, and they are your eyes and ears between your sellers and your cash buyers to ensure all deals go to the finish line. Don't negotiate on this one. Which leads me to my next thing is, if you haven't found your title company, you need to get on it right away. I prefer you do this beforehand, but I get it. Sometimes we get busy just looking for deals. So here's the key is you have to vet your title company. And how do you vet your title company? It's simple. It's a phone call. And I will show you exactly what to say to them. Number one, hi, my name is Rick Ginn. I was just trying to find out, I do real estate investing. Do you guys deal with assignment of contracts? And the last thing I'm going to ask them, do you guys facilitate double closings? Now, the reason for these short 3 questions is because if they beat you up on them, they're not your title company. In fact, not many title companies actually cater to wholesalers. I don't even use the word wholesaler around them. I just tell them I'm a cash buyer. I do real estate investing. I just want to know if they're familiar with assignment of contracts, double closings, and do they work virtually? If so, you probably have got a good title company. But guys, just do not pick any random title company, because if you pick the wrong one, they're going to screw it up at your closing. And that's the worst case scenario you can be in. So now that we've locked down the title company, the next one on our laundry list is the EMD. And EMD is just an acronym for Earnest Money Deposit. So I'm not going to get into the arguments, do you need a deposit or not, because you technically don't. But if you've agreed on a deposit, my recommendation is stick to the $100 deposit. That's the bare minimum. $10 just does not give you a lot of credibility anymore. The fact that it's just a deposit, I never get hung up on the deposit, but I'm always going to start out with $100, and I usually wind up around $500, occasionally $1,000. Guys, don't get hung up on the deposit. It has nothing to do with the final sales price. And some people get stuck on this. If you make the deposit a big deal, it's going to be problematic for you. If you act like it's simple, hey, I'm going to pay you cash, we're closing quickly, most people will get past it. So make sure you don't make it a big deal. Now, the size of the deposit, I talked to you between $100 and $1,000 covers 95% of wholesale deals. I'd rather you stay on the lower side. I want you to think about this. Your size of your deposit should be proportionate to the discount to your deal. Let me ask you this. If somebody had a $200,000 property ARV and they said, listen, I'll give it to you for $80,000, but you got to leave me a $10,000 deposit. What are you going to do? You see, that's almost a 60% discount. And at that number, we all want to buy properties at 60% discount. But some of you are going, well, I don't really have the 10 grand. Number one, reach out to me and Zach, and we can JV and partner on it on sellmypaper.com. Find a cash partner, find some temporary money, because you are going to make a bunch of money. You see, deposit should never get in the way of you making a ton of money. If you get 50 or 60% discounts and they want a large deposit, find a way to fund it for them, because it is a great deal. In fact, the better the deals I get, the more inclined I am to give a larger deposit. You know why? I want my seller to feel comfortable. I want to lock them in, and I want to make sure they never have buyer's remorse. Buyers do assimilate with the size of the deposit with the confidence of the buyer, and that's what EMD is mostly used for in real estate in general. On the other hand, if I have a property that's very tight, it's going to be a tough one, you're not even sure you can get a buyer, I'm only leaving a $100 deposit. That's it. I'm not taking a tremendous amount of risk on it because there's not a lot of upside. So if you have a deal with a much slimmer margin, make sure your deposit is much smaller. You see, I want you to understand at the end of the day, your earnest money deposit will be replaced by your cash buyer. So sometimes you're only out a day or two of that deposit, maybe a week or two at most. That's why I don't want you guys to get completely obsessed on earnest money deposit. If you put $100 on the contract, you got to put $100 in escrow. If you don't do it, you could actually risk your entire contract, and I don't want you to do that. Now, I will never lose a wholesale deal over a deposit for all the things I just mentioned before. It's just a deposit. It's not the sale price or anything like that. Think about this. If somebody wanted you to close in 10 or 14 days, not saying you have to, and they're selling you something 50 cents on the dollar. Say it's a $100,000 property and they want 50 grand, but they say you got to put 50 grand as a deposit in there. I'll do it in a heartbeat. Why? Because it is a huge discount. And what's 10 or 14 days to me? It's not going to make a difference because I'm almost going to double my money. And I want you to understand, don't ever lose a deal over a deposit. Reach out and get help if you can't handle it. Borrow some short-term funds, but big deals deserve bigger deposits, and that will earn you a ton more money. So let's talk about qualifying our cash buyers. And honestly, there's so many wholesalers that just skip this. You see, a lot of people just collect email addresses, they collect phone numbers, and they do SMS, text blast, and emails. That is not vetting a cash buyer. In fact, you're just soliciting a bunch of people that probably aren't even your cash buyers. So what me and Zach want to teach you is actually vetting and qualifying your cash buyers. You see, if you take the time to understand what your cash buyer buys, who's the decision maker, and what types of areas they want to buy properties, you can much better align your product with the right customers so you ultimately have success in wholesaling. If you don't do vetting, all you are is collecting data. Nobody knows who you are. They don't know who you are. And when you have a deal, you're shocked when you have 500 cash buyers and nobody wants to respond. You never took the time to find out who's really a cash buyer. If you reach out to 10 cash buyers that say they're cash buyers, 70 to 80% of them will not be cash buyers. There'll be other wholesalers or people that just flat out lie to you. It is such an abused term, and you've got to know it going into wholesaling. Understand you're going to be lied to than more than told the truth, and you have to expect that up front. So I'm going to give you the tools so you can easily vet every one of your cash buyers for your wholesaling business. So the first question I'm going to ask every cash buyer that I reach out to is, have you ever bought a property via assignment of contract? Be quiet and let them answer. If they say, what are you talking about? Or what's an assignment of contract? I'm going to let you know they're probably not going to be your cash buyer. You see, if somebody doesn't understand how an assignment of contract works, it sounds sketchy and a lot of them think it's a scam and they get scared right off the bat because they're used to being in the realtor world where a realtor does everything for them and they pay the realtor, and that's how it goes. An assignment of contract is a legitimate way to buy a property. Very few people in this country buy houses that way. Make sure they are comfortable with an assignment of contract and they know what they're doing, because trying to explain to a cash buyer that has never bought from a wholesaler how an assignment of contract works on the first deal is usually a giant waste of time. So here's what I'll do. If they are new and they're confused at this point about the assignment of contract, I'll invite them to swing by my title company where the title company will walk them through how an assignment of contract works. Why do I do that? Multiple reasons. Number one, it solidifies who I am and what I'm doing is completely legitimate. And number two, in the eyes of the cash buyer, it validates that buying a property via assignment of contract is a legitimate way, and it shows how they're protected with an owner's policy and a third-party escrow company that handles all the documents at the closing. So everything's legal, everything's tight, and everything's done professionally in a positive manner. So use that tip because it works really well, but make sure you ask your cash buyers, do you buy via assignment of contract? The next thing is you want to make sure they're actually a cash buyer. And this is a point where I'm going to ask for some proof. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up. If you ask for a proof of funds and you don't have any deals in your pipeline and you don't have any marketing going on, it's going to be a challenge because quite honestly, I don't know if I would give you my proof of funds if you're not going to offer me some sort of copy of a contract or something you're working on. Why? Because I don't want to give out all my personal information to someone that doesn't have any business going on. So here's what I do. If you've never done a deal before, just ask them the type of properties they've bought before. Ask for addresses. That's not very intimidating. And say, listen, when I get a deal, would you be happy to supply me with a proof of funds? They go, absolutely. When you give me a deal, I can do that. So that way, when you do call when you have a great wholesale deal, say, hey, Rick, I want to send you over a property. Can you just send me over the proof of funds? If I have it in my account, I'm going to screenshot it real quick and I'm going to send it over to you. Now, don't accept these ridiculous Word document letters, these lines of credit, because they're all doctored up on Photoshop. They have VAs making them. Make sure you have something legit, a screenshot of a bank account within the last 30 days or a legitimate letter from a bank. And by the way, if you have an account number and you have the bank's information, you can call and verify it yourself. Don't be duped. It's actually really easy to create these documents. You've got to see that they have cash, otherwise they're wasting their time. Remember, that's the only thing that's going to substantiate that you have a cash buyer. They've got to show you like a proof of funds. So use the tip I gave you if you don't have any deals going on to ask for permission for the proof of funds and ask for addresses for verification. I know this sounds exhausting. Guys, these are 5, maybe 10-minute phone calls, but when you get the right cash buyer, this is your perfect opportunity to collect as much intel from your cash buyer as possible. And what do I mean by that is I want to learn the type of properties they buy, the areas they buy, the price points they like to buy at. The more you get from them, the better they are. Remember, your cash buyers are your ultimate customers in wholesaling. And most people think it's just the motivated sellers. No, your cash buyers are your customers. You've got to understand that. Now, you don't need to be best friends with your cash buyers. In fact, at this point, I'm going to show you how to keep your cash buyers in line. Keep it completely professional. Keep it all business. I don't want you going out to dinner. I don't want you going on vacations with them because that's how you get abused as a wholesaler. Remember, you don't work for your cash buyer. You need to get your cash buyer to work for you. Let me show you how to do it. Your cash buyers must follow your instructions carefully. Let me repeat that. Your cash buyers have to follow your instructions carefully. Why? Because you're in control. It's your deal. And if a cash buyer will not take the steps you put out, as long as they're reasonable, don't work with them because they're going to try to work you. A lot of cash buyers are seasoned pros like me out there, and I know how to talk to people and I know how to get past them very quickly. If you fall for these traps, you are going to be like an order taker at McDonald's, and I know you're not. So it's important that you get your cash buyer to obey your rules. How do you do that? Number one, you got to get respect. So you tell them, I tell you what, if you want to do this, you need to call this phone number and you need to submit this, this, and this, or something like that. And if they don't do your process, they are not on your list. Anybody who skips your process, number one, they don't respect you. Number two, they're going to try to run you over. So I use a careful set of instructions to make sure my cash buyers always follow. So I tell you, hey, send me an email with your contact information and put your phone number and someone will call you back within 24 hours. If they keep calling every hour and they don't follow my directions, submit the email, I'm not going to work with them. You see, I have to condition my sellers to prime them to create intense competition so I can get the best price possible. How do you do that? You have to have control. If you have control of your cash buyers, then when it comes time for them to make a decision, they're going to jump all over you. If they run you over, slam you on price, and try to beat you up, negotiate right off the bat, and you go on that chase, you're going to get killed by them. So it's important. I don't care what rules you want to set up. Call this number, leave a message. Also forward me an email. Someone will call you back in 24 hours. I've got a series of questions to ask you. Once we do that, I will set up showing instructions for you. And if I have 4 steps, if they don't follow all 4, it's a sign that they're going to be difficult, that they're trying to be aggressive, and they're trying to transactionalize me, meaning give me the price and get out of my way. I'm not going to do that. Never going to do that. You guys fight hard for your deals. Make sure you are in control of your cash buyers. They follow your instructions carefully. When it comes to the EMD, the earnest money deposit, when your cash buyer leaves a deposit on your assignment of contract, it's non-refundable. Period. Just tell them it's non-refundable. You can get into the weeds on it with your escrow officer at your title company, but let them know when they leave the money, it's non-refundable. Now, what's my recommended amount for a non-refundable EMD for an assignment of contract? $5K minimum. Why? Because once they leave $5K, they rarely are going to walk away from it. But if they want to tiptoe and dance around this and leave $1,000 or $100, you know where it's going. They are not real cash buyers. Get rid of them as soon as possible. That $5,000 non-refundable EMD is what solidifies your deal. If they try to negotiate that on you or they try to extend it out, Get rid of them as fast as possible. They're going to be very difficult cash buyers. So once you understand how the EMD is set up, you can go from there. The next thing is we are going to talk to our cash buyers about the walkthrough rules. And this is the part where you basically bring them over to the house, show them the outside of the property, let them walk on the inside. You have to set up rules or they will run you over. And let me go over a few specific rules that I've learned over the years that you need to implement and use with your cash buyers. Remember, your job is to have them follow your instructions to a T. And if they don't do that, they're not a good cash buyer. My first rules when it comes to cash buyers is the amount of time we're going to spend doing it. The reason I say time is because we are not realtors. We don't spend hours inspecting a property. When they come to the property, I told them we're going to spend about maybe 10 minutes total. I'm going to get you inside the house. You're going to take a really good look at it. And then we're going to go to the exterior and take a look at it. Also, when you have them showing up, you want to verify how many people are showing up. This is crucial. If they're showing up by themselves, that's ideal. If they're going to bring a contractor, you need to know that. If they're bringing their wife, their sister, their brother, their kids, you need to know it. Because the last thing you want to do is surprise your seller and show up with 8 people when you only expected there was going to be 1. It's going to create problems, and it's hard to control 8 people in your wholesale deal. It's probably going to blow up on you. Make sure, I really don't want more than 2 people there ever, because you have to keep an eye on all parties doing it and you have to protect your seller. And if it's just you, that's going to be hard to do. So I simply say, we're going to go in the house for 5 minutes. We'll go to the outside and then we're going to go out to the car and we'll usually meet somewhere to make a final decision. That's it. We're not going through it like a 2-hour walkthrough. We are not realtors. We are wholesalers and we have to act like it. The next thing I'm going to inform all my cash buyers is you're not to talk to my seller. If you do, the deal's off. It doesn't matter what price, I won't sell it to you. Why? If they think they can push you and they think they're dominant over you, they will go straight to your seller and start negotiating like you don't exist there. And the minute they do that, ask them to leave the property and have them get out of there. It is rude, it's disrespectful, and it will blow up your deal with your seller. They've got to understand any communication directly to the seller will be an automatic kick out. You're off the list. Also, when they sign the assignment of contract, they are never allowed to talk to a seller. And if we have documented proof they did, we take the deposit away from them and we go on to the next buyer. This is non-negotiable. I know some of them think they're trying to be nice when they talk to your sellers. They're trying to get inside information. Don't fall for it. Always protect your seller. In fact, if it's just you and your cash buyer and the seller there, I spend the entire time with the seller and I let the buyer walk the inside and then I go outside with them and I get them away from the property. If you let your cash buyers connect with your sellers, it is a recipe for disaster and their intentions usually are not good. So you have to prevent this part at all costs. Always keep an eye on your seller when you're doing the walkthrough on the property. Now, my next rule is letting the cash buyers know that, hey, listen, here's the contract I have. Here's the price I'm offering. Why don't you go ahead and underwrite the deal before you walk the property? And then what they do is they check it out and they either call you back or you call them back and say, hey, John, what do you think? They go, hey, Rick, listen, the numbers all look good. As long as I go out to the property and it's exactly what you says, I think we have a deal. That's what I want them to say. I don't want them crunching comps and trying to figure out everything else afterwards. I give them basic information on what the property needs, but that's it. I'm not here to give them my exact numbers. I'm not a contractor. The only thing they have to calculate is usually what their rehab cost is going to be and any questions about the property that they had. And that's what the walkthrough is for. So once they agree to the numbers, the only outstanding condition is to make sure what you're representing is actually what they're getting. And at that point, nobody wants to waste their time. You don't, they don't, and it should match up. What you're trying to avoid is have someone run wild comps after they look at it, because that's what realtors do. We don't do that. They've got to be comfortable with the numbers. They got to be okay with them before they go there, because if not, it's just a wish list and you're doing showings and we're not paid as realtors. We're paid as wholesalers doing deals. So make sure they underwrite your deal before they get there and they say, everything looks good as long as it matches up. I think we can move forward. Understand that. Make sure they underwrite it before they go out to the property. And the last part of the walkthrough is basically, I've already told them what the time is. I told them what the rules are. I told them to underwrite it beforehand. And at this point, once they walk through, I take them out. They need to make a decision right there. And I will always preempt my cash buyers, say, listen, when I go out, look at the property, you've already underwritten it. We're going to verify everything. And when we walk out there, you have a choice to make. It's either a yes or no if you want to move forward. I am not waiting 3 days, 5 days, 7 days for you to get back to me. Now, sometimes you have to because you don't have any action on the property. But if you have good, consistent, steady action, most buyers can make the decision right there when they leave or within 2 hours. That's it. Guys, if you don't press this point, they will drag on forever. Don't give them more than a 2-hour window after they look at the property unless they're your only choice, because they will sit forever in agony trying to make a decision. And I'm looking for confident people that can make decisions and do it quickly. That's why we prime all our cash buyers to let them know what the rules are and make sure they come down our funnel. When they get wild and all over the place, I simply don't let them buy the house from me, because once they're difficult in the beginning, they're usually 10 times worse at the closing. And the final rule is cash buyers get one walkthrough. They don't get 2 and 3. This is not realtor world. They walk through it. The idea is they get a good idea with it. It is a wholesale deal. They're getting a deep discount. This is not something they inspect for days and weeks on. It is one walkthrough, and there's not a final walkthrough the day they buy it. They can drive by it, but they're not going back inside it. That's how wholesaling works. Make sure you set the rules, because anything else, you're in realtor world, and unless you got your realtor's license and that's what you want to do, be a wholesaler. And the last one is what I call getting rid of price originators. Your cash buyers are ultimately going to see what you contracted the property for. There's no way to hide it in an assignment of contract. And you want cash buyers that could care less how much you make. So if I bought the property for $1 and I sold it to you for $100,000, would that bother you? If it does, get rid of them right away. They need to buy it for what they perceive as a great value on the market today. What you buy it for has no regard to that. And there is a large percentage of people that are obsessed on what you paid for the property. They use it like a cheat sheet. I don't care. I don't care what anyone paid for a property before me. I just want to know I'm getting a good deal. So if they're obsessed with what you paid for it and they go, you can't make more than $5,000, get rid of them. They are the worst cash buyers you'll ever deal with. They want to beat you down and they want to win. They want you to lose. Make sure you get rid of them. Get rid of the price originators. I cannot stand these type of people, and there is a lot of them out there. You'll know when they come up. The minute they come up, they go, yep, Rick and Zach told me to get rid of them, and that's what I want you to do. So now we know all the rules of engagement. We know how to prime our cash buyers. So now let's go over and talk about the different types of cash buyers for your wholesale properties. Guys, these people are all over the board. I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each one of them. And I'm going to point you in a direction for the type of cash buyers you're looking to buy your wholesale deals. So the first one you're going to come across that you're initially going to get super excited about, and I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't be, is the company, the guy, the gal that buys 30 or plus houses a year. You're like, Rick, that's a great cash buyer. They're good at what they do, but here's the problem. They are the least desirable type of person you want to sell your wholesale deals to. Why? They demand the deepest discounts. They're very rude about it. They're extremely unemotional, and they just buy a lot of cheap properties. A lot of them are slumlords. A lot of them are big landlords. And these people just, it's only about numbers and that's it. And they will constantly try to take advantage of you. You can sell 1 or 2 of them to them. Occasionally we sell properties that we can't move to anyone else, but they are our smallest profit margin with the most amount of headache. And for this reason, if someone buys 30 or plus properties a year, just be careful. They're going to try to run you over. And this is the part I hate about wholesaling. But the bigger the portfolio a company or a person owns, usually the more difficult they are. They're a better negotiator than most of you new wholesalers out there. And for that reason, they will try to run you over. That's why I told you in the previous slides is make sure they follow your rules. These people will never follow your rules. You'll find out real quick. They'll just try to run you over, tell you what they'll do. They'll tell you, I don't buy assignment of contract. You have to double close. Don't let them set the rules for you. Occasionally you do have to sell these types of people, but they are the least desirable ones you want to sell to. The next one is the group that buys between 15 and 29 houses. Now, these are mostly larger fix and flip companies, small LLCs, and they make a job just doing fixing and flipping, and they have to keep a crew moving the entire time. So sometimes they start to run out of properties, and then they love to work with wholesalers because of the speed they can get them, but they're not the easiest people. They still tend to try to run you over, and they constantly keep coming back to you for a price reduction. I do sell to these people, but they're very choosy on the types of projects they pick. And if you can get the right one in an area where they're doing a lot of fix and flips and they're out of inventory, they'll typically pay you more. But if they have a lot of inventory, they'll pay you very, very little, or they won't buy them at all. So find out what these large fix and flippers, their inventory level is, how many projects they're working on, and keep that in mind. But keep in mind, they have to keep a crew busy. So a lot of times you hit them right when you have a deal and they hit you very low. And then 3 months later, they have no other projects coming up and they'll pay you more. They're unpredictable. They're not my favorite type of people to sell to, but you're going to run across a lot of them. But remember, these are still professional companies and they have very experienced negotiators. And if you're a new wholesaler, they tend to be difficult. And these people push hard to use their title company. Do not fall for it. It will be a disaster if you do it. Now, when you get to someone who buys 10 to 15 houses a year, this is a much sweeter spot for you to sell as a wholesaler. Why? These are usually very small businesses, maybe husband and a wife, and they've been flipping for a little while. They've had some success. They're doing some good deals, but they're choosy. That's the only problem with them. They're choosy, but they do pay very well. And I do like these types of cash buyers because they're professional, but they're not super, super greedy. They actually keep really busy and all they want to do is fix and flip. They don't really deal in landlord property. So if you have the right property that's a fix and flip, these types of people are my favorite of the three we've shown so far in this slide. The person that buys 5 to 9 houses a year is typically going to be an individual or like a mother and father team. And honestly, I love this. Why? Fast decision making, small team. They can easily fund it. They usually fund 1 to 2 projects at a time. And for this reason, they're dynamite. Now, a lot of these people, they're relatively newer to wholesaling and they don't know how wholesaling works. They just like to buy stuff wholesale. Now, you got to make sure they get past buying the property on the assignment of contract, because that's usually where these people get held up. And if it's their first time, it probably won't work out on the first deal. The second or third deal, they'll come around, bring them over to your title company. Guys, listen, the smaller the buyer, the better it is. Why? Because they're not as sharp on their numbers and they only need to take down a few deals to make it work. I love these types of people. You'll instantly know the difference between a professional flipper and someone that's just working with like a general partnership. Like one's good at designing, one's okay at buying real estate, but they're not really, really good. They make some money, especially when the market's good, but when the market's bad, they always get killed. These are some of my favorite types of buyers. Now we're in the sweet spot. The person who buys 1 to 4 houses a year, flat out one of my favorite buyers. Why? It's usually a male that buys the property and he decides to fix the whole thing up himself because he can do everything. So his numbers are tighter. So the rehab, what would cost everybody else 50 grand, he can get it done for 20. He finds $30,000 more profit in it, even though he has to do all the work himself. I love these type of people. They move fast. They make decisions. The downside is they only buy 1 to 4 houses a year. They're only your customer a couple times a year. But every time they buy from you, they're programmed, they're ready to go. They eat like a dog out of your hand. Like they just love it. So these are my favorite. I will run to them every time. The problem is they can only buy so many houses, but man, when they come up, these are the people I really stay in contact because they're my absolute favorite. Now, I'm about to show you a surprise guest on here. These are popping up more and more. And why not? We're wholesalers. We look for opportunities. And let me show you one of the really cool opportunities you have with this next type of cash buyer. This is what we call the fix and flip seminar people. And these are people that go to seminars all over the country and they are obsessed with flipping houses. They watch a lot of A&E shows. They watch a lot of Flip This TV shows and they buy into the dream. There's a lot of fake stuff that goes on the TV. You don't even know how much money any of these people make. But the reality is these people are mostly dreamers, meaning they think they can buy a house for 300 grand and sell it for 800 grand and get it done in 3 months. And you know what? Not my job to discourage them. I sell the dream too. And these people, they're all over the board. Emotionally, they'll kind of drive you crazy, but they will pay a ridiculous price tag for your wholesale deals. They're not hung up on assignment of contracts. Now, the problem is you sell these people maybe 1 or 2 houses, you'll never see them again because they usually don't make it. Because if you're just going to do fix and flip and you think you're just going to buy a few discounted houses, and fixing and flipping for the most part, unless you do it professionally with years and years of of experience and contractors within the family, most fix and flippers get killed, especially in a down market or when interest rates get high because they can't get them sold. They can't make the numbers work. But these people will buy from you because they think what we do as wholesalers is amazing. So take advantage of it. It's not my job of what happens, because at the end, I want all my cash buyers to make a ton of money off of me. And you guys know that's why they're buying it from you. But if you go from the fix and flip seminar person all the way up to the seasoned professional that buys 30 plus houses a year, there is a range, and you're going to go up and down this range all through your wholesaling career, and you just have to fill them in. When you start filling out the bottom ones, the people that buy less than 5 houses a year, then you got to go to some of the bigger ones, and some of those you take a little bit less. Hey, if you want to keep product moving, you have to adapt with your cash buyers' needs. It's no different in today's market. Keep in mind, you've got to know your different types of cash buyers. So before we get into finding our cash buyers, we got to understand, what do our cash buyers really need from us wholesalers? And this isn't really talked about a whole lot, but we have to understand it. So the more you understand your cash buyer, which is ultimately your customer, the more you can fulfill the right type of product to get from your motivated sellers. So the first thing I want you to do with your cash buyers list is start building your list as soon as possible. Remember, it's not about how many people on your list, it's about the quality of them. So if you haven't done it to this point, start picking away at it. If you just spend a little time each day, eventually you'll build up a nice, fat, robust cash buyers list. And it's going to make you much more confident when you get your first wholesale deal that you can move it much quicker. Now, a lot of you out there, you get deals, then you go to find your cash buyers. It is stressful. You can do it. Some of you like to work under the gun, but I prefer you go ahead and start cutting your teeth and collecting this list while you're hunting down your motivated sellers. As I said earlier, quality trumps quantity. If you give me a wholesaler who says I got 500 or 5,000 cash buyers, I guarantee they're lying to you. It's not. If you got 500 cash buyers, it means you got 495 wholesalers, and then you got about 4 or 5 family members looking you over. They have no idea because you never vetted them. Anybody can fill out a form, click a link. It doesn't mean anything. Make sure you vet your cash buyers. I'd rather you have 5 quality cash buyers than 5,000 random people that you have no idea have the ability to even buy your wholesale deal. Vet your cash buyers. Just take the 5 or 10 minutes on the phone, get through your questions, and if you do it once, then you know when you go to your cash buyers list, you have a real cash buyers list, and you don't have to fret about all these tire kickers wasting your time. By the way, guys, a little disclosure on your cash buyers list, if you don't vet them, you're going to have people stalking in your cash buyers list. You're going to have competition. You're going to have other wholesalers. Heck, you could have even agencies hunting down to see if you're going to make a mistake. And you've got to understand this. This is why I want you to vet your cash buyers list. Once you verify them, you know it's legit, and you can much more confidently market to that list. But if your list is hidden with all your competition and other wholesalers, you're just giving the house away every time you send out that email list or that SMS text blast. Guys, remember, we are wholesalers. We are selling the contract. We are not selling the property. You have to remember this when dealing with your cash buyers, because if you step over the line, you're not wholesaling anymore. You're selling a property without a license, and I don't want you to do that. We sell our contract. If they want to view the asset that's attached to the contract after they do some basic underwriting and clear us, then we can facilitate that. The last thing I want you to do is sending out property pictures to your 5,000 cash buyer contact list, and you find out you've got federal agencies looking on that. You got a realtors association looking at you. This is how you get in trouble in wholesaling. So vetting your cash buyers list not only gives you a better quality, but it also protects you so you don't break any real estate laws. Remember, we are selling contracts. Banks do this. Insurance companies do this. We can take advantage of this, but we have to stay in our lane. We sell the contract only. And please remember this, guys. Hard money is not cash. So when you have a cash buyer represent says they want to use hard money, if this is their first deal, it won't work out. I know this for a fact because they don't understand how the game's played. They think there should be 100% funding. They're going to have to get appraisals. They're going to have to get inspections. It's going to be worse than buying a house for retail. If a cash buyer represents themselves as a cash buyer that says they need hard money, I'm already skeptical what you can do. My only exception is if you've bought other properties from me or you've proven a track record with your hard money person and you put down a big chunk of money, then I'm interested. Anything other than that is usually going to be disaster. A new cash buyer that uses hard money has not established themselves. The hard money person has no idea if they have the ability to take the deal down and make money. Number three, the hard money person wants to protect their capital, and they only want to give loans to people that know what they're doing. And the last part you got to understand, when it comes to a closing with hard money loan, the hard money person has the right to pull the funding right up to the last minute of your deal. And I've had it happen to me multiple times. This is the risk of hard money. Only use people that have a strong history with hard money and has demonstrated a responsibility with it, and they know what they're doing. Now, if they say, hey, I'm using hard money, who's your hard money lender? They go, oh, I need to go find one. Run. They're not your cash buyer. I promise you. And guys, the next rule, you have to understand this. Your cash buyers are coming to you, the wholesaler, to make money off of you. If there's no money left in the deal, you're probably not doing wholesaling right. Why would a cash buyer move forward and buy a deal from us if they didn't believe they were going to make money? So you've got to have deals that make sense for your cash buyer to buy. And if you're taking all the meat off the bone, then it's not going to be a good deal for your cash buyer and they won't buy it from you. You have to understand this in wholesaling. This has always been a cardinal rule. If there's no meat on the bones, why is a cash buyer going to take the risk and close on that deal? Every now and then you can get a dumb cash buyer, but for the most part, cash is smart and they only want to make investments where they have a strong probability of making a positive return on it. Your cash buyers are absolutely no different. And my last one is you need to understand how to bid cash buyers discreetly. Now, what do I mean by this? Every now and then you have a property, and especially if you're a newer wholesaler, and you put it out, and maybe you put it out at $250,000, and you get 9 people that reach out, and 3 people right off the bat, I'll take it right now. I'll take it right now. You're like, oh my gosh, I think I underpriced it. Don't panic. Go through your normal cash buying procedures. Make sure they follow the rules. And I want you to narrow it down to 2 cash buyers. And here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do this like a realtor. We're going to do this like a professional wholesaler. And you're going to reach out to each one of them and go, listen, I'm in a predicament. You and another buyer has made the exact same simultaneous offer at the same time. And I'm kind of in a quandary. So here's what I'm going to do. I need you to give me your best and final offer. You give it to me right now in the next hour or 2. And I'm going to make a decision at 7 o'clock tonight. And you'll know if you have the property or not. This is the only fair way to do it. I apologize, but it's down to you two. Let me know what you want to do. Now, sometimes that buyer will go, okay, I'll go up 5,000, but I need a decision right now. Make a decision. It might be worth it, because if you turn them down and you go to the other one and then they back out, you got to start all over. So this is what I mean by being discreet about it. You have to just say, listen, I'm in a quandary. I've had 2 people make a simultaneous offer. The only fair thing to do is give me your best offer. I'll take their best offer, and I'll let you know in 2 hours who gets the deal. Now, a guy like me is going to press you right there and go, I'm going to offer you $5,000 more, but I need a decision right now. Kind of go Shark Tank style, and it works. If you are new and that happens, I would take the first offer, because I don't want you to get slaughtered. Pigs get slaughtered. Don't be greedy. Take a profit and run. And I love when there's high activity on the property. But if you think you're going to call 5 people and do these bidding wars, it's an absolute nightmare. And that's how you really burn cash buyers. If you're just honest and go, listen, it's down to 2 people. You just need to find out who wants it more. That's what it comes down to. So the key here is to be discreet with your cash buyers when doing this bidding and get it down to 2. So finally, let's talk about finding our cash buyers and show you the different techniques to actually locate the cash buyers. Step 1 is simply going to be calling them for rents. If you're doing this in your local market, you can drive around and look at rent signs, but they're easier to get online. They're all over the place, Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, everywhere around there, Craigslist. You can even go to local counties and cities. They'll post these for you. And why not call them? Why? Because calling for rents. Why am I going to call for rents? Because usually cash buyers own these properties and they love to generate more rentals, and they get better deals from a wholesaler than they're ever going to get on MLS. And for that reason, I love to do calling for rents. Don't complicate it. Just pick up the phone and call. You don't need a multiple dialer, and just see if they're looking to pick up more properties in that area. It's that simple. Number 2 is the Facebook's group search. Go into a group. So if I was in South Florida, I would do South Florida real estate investors. And then basically I'm going to search for people looking to buy properties for cash. You can scrape emails, you can get names, you can get phone numbers. Very powerful stuff For this reason, it works. And if you're doing it virtually, you can just pick, say you did Knoxville Real Estate Group, Knoxville Wholesaling, anything like that. You're going to find a ton of cash buyers. Go in there, harvest that information, and use the power of social media. This is where it will actually help you out. The next one is RIA groups, and this is an acronym for Real Estate Investor Association groups. Now, if you're local, you can attend these in your markets that you facilitate. Don't be scared to travel around 50, 75, or 100 miles. And this is a great group of people. They're people just like you. A lot of people are getting started just like you, but you're going to find seasoned cash buyers there. They're everywhere. Be careful. They love to kind of pick on newbie wholesalers. Make sure you always follow your rules and never bend them. Don't let anyone ever take advantage of you. And listen, I love RIAs, but listen, the real networking happens just before and afterwards. You can sit down and attend the meeting usually for free, or it's 10 or 20 bucks. I press you to get a membership there because I think there's quality people and you can connect with so many people. But guys, please don't buy all the sales programs they sell there. I'm just telling you, somebody comes into town, sells you a program, and then they leave, and it's very expensive, and they split it with the host. Don't like that part of RIAs. It's been that way forever. It's one of the reasons I'm not in the RIA groups anymore, but I still like to attend them, and I do support them. Number 4 is something most people don't think about is title companies. Like, how does title companies have cash buyers? Listen, title companies know the absolute best cash buyers in your local markets and your virtual markets. Think about it. Everything has to go through the title company. They know who's the player. They know who has the money. They know so much information. They have so many years of experience. Why not harvest it, especially if you're brand new? I wouldn't start off by asking all your cash buyers, but as you get to know your title company, connect with them and learn about their business, and you're going to find the biggest cash buyers. They will point you in the right direction to find them. I always find my best cash buyers through my local title companies. Number 5 is real estate auctions. That's right. I said real estate auctions. Now, there's multiple types of auctions, and I'll break it down a little bit more for you. If you're in a local market, you can do real estate auctions where it's a small company. It's usually a family-owned business passed down from generation to generation. They sell mostly small rental properties. They usually do them on Saturday mornings. They advertise for it. You can look it up. You can Google it and find them. And how do they earn their money? Through the advertising. They earn a 10% premium. They're actually realtors. And then you get 100 people that show up for a property. There's only one winner. Guys, that's 99 people that are salivating to buy a property for cash that are ready right there to wire the money to buy the property. And guys, those are great buyers. Be respectful when you go there. Don't take a picture of their list. Go around and network the old-fashioned way. Meet and greet, shake hands, business cards, electronic cards, however you're going to do it. I love physical auctions. I think they're really cool. Now, it doesn't stop there. You can also harvest online auctions. Now, the ones in particular are going to be your foreclosure auctions, and sometimes you can even do your tax deed sales or the sheriff sales when the stuff comes back. The reason is a lot of the information is anonymous, but once you have the parcel ID number of the property, you can then research who bought the property in public records. And then once you know who the buyer was, you know they paid cash. That is a great avenue to find cash buyers. It does take some time and some work to harvest that information, but anytime there's a public auction and it's cash only, they might be anonymous, but once you have the parcel ID number or the address, within 30 days, you can look up to see who bought that property. And once again, that is a perfect cash buyer for you because that person had to make a very fast decision, all cash on the spot. They're my favorite type of people you can buy properties from. Now, coming in number 6 are realtors. And like, what the heck do I need a realtor for? Listen, there's realtors out there that represent just cash buyers. And honestly, I love them. I know what you're thinking, Rick, why would I pay a realtor being in wholesaling? I'm here to tell you, even if you pay a 3 or 4% commission fee to a realtor, they're usually going to get you at least 10 to 15% more than you're ever going to get on your own assignment contract. You're like thinking, how does that work? Simple. They work with cash buyers, exclusively with cash buyers. So I'm looking for realtors that do a high volume of cash transactions. And the ones that do that, they like to go to auctions. They go to RIA groups. They talk to their title companies. They're always looking for a deal and they hunt. They're very aggressive. They're great hustlers. And when they find a property that they can't get on MLS, they will typically pay top dollar for it. And here's the cool part. They'll look at the property for their client, and basically the client never sees it. They buy it kind of sight unseen. The realtor looks at it for them. They make a quick decision. And here's the really cool part. Absolutely no drama. They only want to do it because they're getting paid and they want it to happen as fast as possible. So you just got your highest offer. Yes, you're paying a commission, but you got about 15% more. You don't have any of the drama. It closes fast. It is the perfect scenario. I love these. Now, how do I find realtors that have big cash buyers volume? What I would do is try to find someone who has access to MLS and they can sort your realtors based on cash transactions. And you'll see usually an area they do 6 or 12 months within a deal. That's a realtor I definitely want to connect with. In fact, I found a lot of my cash buyer realtor agents when I went to my local real estate auctions, because they go to every one of them and they buy a lot of properties there. And I was like, man, this is like gold. I always thought it was going to cost me more. It actually makes you more money and it's a much more seamless transaction. Don't forget about your real estate agents that represent cash buyers. Now, I'm going to give you 2 additional ways that you can scrape this information that you can get from your computer from some of our paid sites. So the first one is going over to listrei.com. That's through PropStream. And you can actually pull a list and just pull cash buyers. You can segment it for the type of properties, the areas. You can go back 6 months, 3 months, you can go back to a year, and you can already harvest that information. So if you have an account with listrei.com, you already included within your membership, and you can get that information for free. It's dynamite. You just have to skip trace that information and it works real well. If you don't have an account with listrei.com, just go over there. They'll give you a 7-day free trial and check it out. Now, the other one that I really, really like is dmzac.com, and that is through Deal Machine, which we've partnered up, where you can actually pull these exact list. You can pull cash buyers list. And once again, you can segment down to an area. You can even nail it down to certain demographics, age, sex, all sorts of things. One of the most advanced filters I've ever seen. And the really cool thing I like about DMZac that is step above the others is you can actually skip trace and find the cash buyer's information right there inside that app. They have a mobile version on your phone, or you can do it on your desktop, or you can work together. It works seamlessly. Go over to dmzac.com. You can get a free trial there too. Or if you have a membership there, it's already included and you want to go ahead and take advantage of that. So guys, that wraps it up on the cash buyer section. The part of this video was to tie you in after you lock up your contract. And I wanted to go past just how you find the cash buyers. I wanted to go over the checklist, how to work with your title company, how to qualify your cash buyers, all the different types of cash buyers, and specifically how to find your cash buyers. And don't forget the rules, guys. You've got to set yourself up success with the cash buyers. Make sure they follow your instructions to the T, and don't let anybody run you over. I am very confident you can get this done. If you've got it under contract at this point, it is your job to take it home, get the deal assigned. So the next step is going to be moving on to the assignment of contract. So guys, I appreciate your time. This is the segment on cash buyers, and I'll see you in the next video. See you guys.